Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. This time we're cracking open Jun Yuh's The Guide to Academic Success.
Ooh, this is gonna be good.
It's like having a secret weapon for acing those classes, you know? We're
Yeah.
talking study strategies, productivity hacks, the whole nine yards.
And the coolest part is that it's coming straight from a fellow student.
Yeah, Jun's not some, professor who's forgotten what it's like to pull an all-nighter.
He's literally in the trenches right now.
Right. PhD and a master's degree at the same time, that's next-level dedication.
He even talks about that whole curse of knowledge thing. Like, when you're so deep into a subject, you forget how hard it was to learn in the first place.
Oh, totally. Makes it hard to teach sometimes, right? You assume everyone's on the same page.
Exactly. Jun's aware of that, so he's super intentional about making his advice relatable and easy to digest.
It's like having a super successful study buddy who's already aced all the courses you're stressing about.
Love that analogy.
Okay, so let's jump into some of the common study mistakes Jun calls out in the guide.
All right, fire away. First up is what he calls the numbers game trap. This is that idea that more study time always equals better results.
Yeah, that's a classic. We've all been there.
Like, if I just spend 8 hours in the library, I'm guaranteed an A, right? Not so fast.
It can backfire big time.
Burnout city. You end up exhausted, frustrated, and you haven't actually absorbed anything. Quality over quantity, people.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay, next up, the one I was so guilty of. Pretty notes syndrome. All those color-coded highlighters, the perfect handwriting.
Oh, the visual appeal.
But then, come test time, it was like my brain was blank. All that effort for nothing.
The thing is, making things look pretty doesn't actually translate to deep understanding. You're focused on aesthetics, not substance.
Right, and we're all about substance here.
Absolutely.
All right, another trap we've all fallen into is sticking to what's easy, right?
Oh yeah, comfort zone all the way.
But June brings up this idea of desirable difficulty, which sounds kind of counterintuitive, I know, but a little struggle actually helps you learn better in the long run.
Think of it like lifting weights. If you keep using the same light weights, you're not going to build any muscle.
Gotta challenge those brain muscles.
Exactly. Push yourself a bit.
And lastly, the dreaded forgetting curve. You cram, cram, cram for a test, feel like a genius for about 5 minutes.
And then, poof, it's all gone.
Vanished into thin air like it never even happened.
Cramming is like building a house on sand. It's just not going to hold up over time.
Okay, so we've covered the common pitfalls, but don't worry, Jones got our backs. He outlines 4 evidence-based learning principles to help us avoid these mistakes and actually learn effectively.
This is where it gets really interesting.
And we're not talking about some random study tips your grandma told you. This is backed by actual research.
It's the science of how our brains learn best.
So principle number 1, active recall. Done, done, done.
Sounds intense.
It is, but in a good way. Think of it like a mental workout for your memory.
Instead of just passively reading notes over and over again, you're actively trying to retrieve information from your memory without looking.
So I'm really putting those brain cells to work.
You got it. And the results speak for themselves. Jun cites this study where active recall led to a 50% improvement in long-term retention compared to just repeatedly studying the same stuff.
50%. That's a game changer. Okay, I'm sold. But how do we actually do active recall? Give me the goods.
Well, Jun has 6 practical methods you can try, and they all sound pretty cool. First up, pre-tests.
Pre-test, huh? So before I even dive into a new topic, I should be quizzing myself on it.
Exactly. It's like scouting the terrain before you go on a hike, right? You get a sense of the lay of the land, identify any potential obstacles.
So I'm spotting those knowledge gaps right from the start. I like it. What's next?
Note-taking, but not the way you might think. Ditch the rainbow highlighters and fancy calligraphy. This is about taking notes strategically to facilitate active recall.
So more than just copying everything down word for word.
Exactly. Focus on capturing core concepts, use keywords, and try turning information into questions.
So I'm actually engaging with the material as I'm taking notes, not just passively transcribing. What else you got?
Immediate review after class. Don't wait until the information starts to fade. Go through everything while it's still fresh. Try to answer those questions you wrote in your notes and really solidify your understanding.
Strike while the iron is hot, right? Okay, give me another technique.
The Feynman technique.
Ooh, that one sounds fancy.
It's actually pretty simple. It's all about explaining a concept in your own words, as if you were teaching it to someone who knows nothing about it. Imagine explaining it to a 5-year-old.
Or my dog.
Exactly. And the real magic happens when you struggle to explain it. That's how you pinpoint those gaps in your understanding. You can even talk out loud like you're giving a mini lecture.
I might need a quiet room for that one. Okay, what else?
Try the blurting method. Read something, close the book, and just write down everything you can remember, no peeking allowed. Then compare your notes to the source and see what you missed or got wrong.
So it's all about revealing those blind spots in my memory and then targeting them for further review.
You got it.
All right, last but not least, the good old practice test.
A classic for a reason.
But Jun emphasizes that it's not just about taking the test and checking the answers. You got to really treat it like the real deal.
Timed conditions, no distractions, the whole 9 yards.
And he suggests really focusing on explaining the answers, not just guessing.
Right. Why is this the right answer? What's the underlying logic?
So I'm demonstrating deep understanding, not just surface-level memorization.
Exactly. All right, so we've got pre-tests, smart note-taking, immediate review, Feynman explaining it to a kid, blurting, and practice tests. That's a lot of active recall firepower.
My brain is already feeling the burn.
In a good way, of course.
What's the next principle on our list?
Spaced repetition. Reviewing material at increasing intervals to beat that dreaded forgetting curve.
Ah, I've heard about this. Instead of cramming, I'm strategically spacing out my review sessions over time.
Exactly. And remember that desirable difficulty we talked about. The struggle to recall actually strengthens the memory.
Makes sense. I'm making my brain work for it, building those neural pathways.
Right. And the research is on our side. Jun mentions a study where spaced repetition outperformed all other study methods for long-term retention.
So it's science-backed, but how do I actually do it? Is there, like, a system?
Jun has you covered. He suggests the Leitner system, which uses flashcards organized into boxes with different review times.
Yeah.
The ones you struggle with stay in the short review box, and the ones you ace move to longer intervals.
So it's like a smart system that automatically prioritizes what I need to work on most.
You got it. He also recommends a simple end-of-day review. Just spend 20 minutes going over what you learned that day.
Like a quick download before I totally forget.
Exactly. And he talks about 2 types of revision timetables. Perspective, where you plan everything out in advance, and retrospective, where you adjust based on how well you're remembering things.
So perspective is like setting a course, and retrospective is adjusting the sails along the way.
That's a great way to put it. And if you want to go high-tech, there are even apps like Anki and SuperMemo that can automate spaced repetition for you.
Ooh, tech support for my brain. Love it. Okay, on to principle number 3. What's next?
Interleaved practice.
Interleaved practice. What is this? A cooking show?
Well, it's about mixing things up in your study routine. Instead of studying one subject for hours on end, you switch between different subjects during your study session.
So instead of 3 hours straight of biology, I might do an hour of biology, an hour of history, and then back to biology.
Exactly. And research shows this can lead to much better long-term retention and even helps you solve problems better. It's like cross-training for your brain.
Okay, I'm liking this brain workout analogy, but why does mixing things up help so much?
Well, when you force your brain to shift gears between different subjects, you're creating more connections, strengthening that neural network.
It's like I'm building a more robust mental map.
Exactly. Plus, interleaving is more like how we actually solve problems in real life, right? We're rarely dealing with just one subject at a time.
I see your point. So how do I actually interleave my study sessions?
Jun suggests a couple of strategies. You can switch subjects within a single study session, like you mentioned earlier, or you can try switching study modes for different subjects over several days.
Study modes?
Yeah. Like Monday, you attend a biology lecture. Tuesday, you tackle some chemistry practice problems. Wednesday, you review your history notes. Then you repeat the cycle.
So I'm spacing out different types of learning for each subject. Okay, that's getting pretty complex.
It can be, but the key is to experiment. See what works best for you. Everyone learns differently.
All right, final principle. Hit me with it.
Optimize breaks.
Okay, I'm already on board with this one. Are we talking naps, coffee breaks, Netflix?
Think strategic rest and recovery, power naps, non-sleep deep rest.
Wait, hold up. Non-sleep deep rest. What's that?
It's basically inducing a state of deep relaxation without actually falling asleep. Think meditation, guided visualizations, even just lying down and focusing on your breath.
So it's like a mini vacation for my brain.
Exactly. And here's the cool part. Both naps, NAD, non-sleep deep rest, can activate similar processes in your brain as sleep does, helping consolidate those memories.
My brain is working even when I'm chilling. I like it. What else?
He also talks about gap effects. Basically, adding random pauses during your study sessions can actually enhance learning.
So those mini breaks I take to scroll through Instagram.
Well, maybe not Instagram, but taking a few minutes to step away from your work, let your mind wander, can help your brain make those all-important connections.
Okay, so maybe I'll swap Instagram for a quick walk around the block.
That's a great idea. Get that blood flowing.
All right, so we've got active recall, spaced repetition, interleaving, and optimized breaks. That's a lot to digest. But how do I actually turn all this into a study system that works for me?
That's what we'll tackle in the next part of our deep dive.
I'm ready for it. Let's build those study systems.
All right, you ready to design a study system that actually works?
Let's do it. I'm ready to upgrade my study game.
Jun breaks it down into 4 steps.
Yeah.
First, you got to create what he calls a prospective revision timetable. Basically, you map out all your study sessions in advance, incorporating all those awesome principles we've talked about.
Active recall, spaced repetition, interleaving, those glorious breaks, it's all going in there.
Yep. It's like a personalized roadmap for conquering your coursework.
I like it. A roadmap to success. So what's step 2?
This is where those active recall techniques really come into play. All those tools we discussed, pretests, question-based note-taking, Feynman technique, blurting method, practice tests, they're your weapons in the fight against forgetting.
I'm starting to see how all the pieces fit together. Active recall is like making my brain lift weights, right?
Exactly. You got to work those mental muscles.
Step 3, what's next?
Prioritize rest and recovery. Seriously, don't skimp on those breaks.
You know I'm all about those breaks.
Make time for naps. Non-sleep deep rest, those gap sessions. Your brain needs time to recharge.
All right, step 4, bring it on.
This is all about continuous improvement. Track your progress, see what's working, what's not, and adjust your schedule accordingly.
So it's like a dynamic system, always evolving.
You got it. It's a blend of structure and flexibility.
Okay, before we get into actually building our own systems, I'm curious about Jun himself. How does he manage to stay on top of everything with a PhD and a master's? Spill the secrets.
Well, one of his big things is leveraging his peak productivity window.
Is a what now?
It's that time of day when you're naturally most focused and energized. Jun figures out when his is and schedules his toughest tasks for those times.
So like if I'm a morning person, I should hit those complex assignments before lunch even crosses my mind.
You got it. Work with your natural energy flow, not against it.
That's smart. Any other productivity hacks he uses?
He's all about the second brain concept.
A second brain. Is he like part cyborg or something?
Not quite. It's an external system for capturing, organizing, and retrieving information. Think notebooks, apps, whatever works for you.
So instead of trying to remember everything, I can offload some of that mental weight onto my second brain? Kind of like a backup hard drive for my thoughts?
Exactly. He tells this story about his cousin who's trying to teach kids soccer techniques, but having a hard time explaining the movements clearly.
Kids in soccer, that sounds like a recipe for chaos.
Right. Well, his cousin started using video recordings as his second brain. He'd film the drills, break them down, analyze them.
So he had a visual reference to work with.
Yep. And it made a huge difference. He could teach way more effectively because he wasn't trying to hold all those details in his head.
So by capturing the movements on video, he freed up his mental space to focus on the actual coaching. That's brilliant.
And Jun's point is that freeing up mental space is essential for deeper learning and creativity.
You're not bogged down with trying to remember every little thing so you can make connections, come up with new ideas.
Exactly. Okay, ready for another productivity gem?
Hit me.
Time blocking. Scheduling dedicated blocks of time for specific tasks.
Oh, time blocking is my jam. It's like Parkinson's law in action, right?
Yeah.
The work expands to fill the time we give it. So if I block off 2 hours to write that paper, boom, it gets done in 2 hours.
Plus, it reduces decision fatigue, that overwhelmed feeling you get when you have a million things to do and you're just stuck.
Ugh, yeah. Time blocking is like a personal assistant for my brain. It tells me what to do and when to do it. No more agonizing over decisions.
You got it. Okay, another one for you. The 5-minute rule.
5-minute rule. That sounds intriguing. And maybe a little too easy.
Well, it's about tricking your brain into getting started. Anytime he's feeling resistant to starting a task, he tells himself he'll work on it for just 5 minutes.
Just 5 minutes, that's all it takes.
Often that's all it takes to break through that initial resistance. And once he's in the flow, he keeps going.
So it's about lowering the bar, making it seem less daunting. I like it.
He also uses the 3-2-1 method.
3, 2, 1. Blast off.
Haha, sort of. It's about overcoming inertia. You just count down 3, 2, 1, and then jump into the task, no hesitation.
I can see how that would help break through those mental blocks.
He even uses it to get out of bed in the morning. No more snooze button.
Whoa, that's commitment. Okay, what else?
The Pomodoro technique is a classic. Working in focus bursts, usually 25 minutes, with short breaks in between.
I've tried that one. It's amazing how much more I can get done when I break things down into those smaller intervals.
Right. Jun actually modifies it a bit, though. He uses 45-minute intervals instead of 25 because it fits his natural rhythm better.
So again, it's about finding what works for you.
Now, you might be thinking, wait, more productivity hacks. I thought we were supposed to be getting more sleep.
Sleep is my love language.
And Jun agrees. That's why he recommends a night alarm clock, but not in the way you might think. He uses 2 alarms at night.
2 alarms, why?
The first one signals that it's time to start winding down, like an hour before bed. Disconnect from screens, dim the lights, ease into sleep mode.
I like that. It's a reminder to create a buffer zone between the day's chaos and restful sleep.
And the second alarm is your actual wake-up call.
Okay, 2 alarms it is. I'm all about creating a relaxing bedtime routine.
Another one of Joan's favorites is stacking micro-wins.
Micro-wins. Sounds cute.
It's about breaking down those big, scary goals into smaller, more manageable steps. Each small victory keeps you motivated and gives you that sense of progress.
I can totally see how that would help. It's like that saying, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Exactly. And last but not least, Jen is a big fan of mindfulness practice for staying grounded and focused.
Mindfulness, huh? So we're talking meditation, yoga, that kind of thing.
It can be, but it's really about cultivating awareness of your thoughts and feelings in the present moment without judgment.
So noticing when I'm getting stressed, overwhelmed, and then taking steps to bring myself back to a state of calm focus. That makes sense.
And Ewan emphasizes that mindfulness can help you align your actions with your values and goals. You become more intentional with your time and energy.
I like that. It's about being in the driver's seat of your own life. All right, we've covered so many incredible productivity tips. My brain is buzzing with ideas.
But remember, it's not about trying to do everything at once. It's about finding what resonates with you, experimenting, and creating a system that supports your unique learning style and goals.
Okay, so no pressure to become a productivity robot overnight.
Exactly. It's a journey, not a destination. And in the next part of our deep dive, we're going to explore Jun's specific advice for students, which goes beyond just study skills.
I can't wait. Let's keep diving.
Okay, so let's revisit those 4 powerful learning principles we've been talking about, starting with active recall.
All right, active recall, the one where we make our brains sweat a little.
Exactly. Remember, it's all about actively retrieving information instead of just passively absorbing it. And Jun has given us 6 fantastic techniques to put it into practice.
We've already touched on them, but I'm ready to go deeper. Let's break them down one by one.
Sounds good. Let's start with pre-testing.
Pre-testing, that's the one where I quiz myself before I even start learning the material, right?
You got it. I know it sounds a little crazy, but trust me, it works.
I'm willing to try anything to boost my learning. So how does pre-testing actually help?
Well, first of all, it helps you pinpoint those knowledge gaps right from the start.
So it's like I'm taking inventory of what I already know and what I still need to learn.
Exactly. And here's the really cool part. Pre-testing actually primes your brain for learning new information more effectively. It's called the testing effect.
The testing effect. Sounds intriguing. Tell me more.
Basically, when you try to recall information, even if you struggle, you're strengthening the memory trace and making those neural connections stronger.
So even if I bomb the pretest, the effort itself is beneficial.
Precisely. It's like warming up your brain, getting those synapses firing.
Okay, I'm sold on pretesting. It's like a mental workout before the main event. What's next?
Let's talk about note-taking. We've already debunked the myth of pretty notes.
Oh yeah, those rainbow highlighters aren't as helpful as I thought they were back in the day.
The key is to make your notes an active tool for learning, not just a pretty archive.
So how do I do that?
Focus on the fundamental concepts, use keywords and phrases, and try turning information into questions.
So I'm actively engaging with the material as I'm taking notes, thinking critically, and creating those mental hooks.
You got it. It's all about making those connections in your brain. Now, are you ready for the Feynman technique?
Oh yes, the Feynman technique. The one where I pretend to teach the concept to my dog.
Exactly. It might feel silly, but it's incredibly effective. When you try to explain something in simple terms, you quickly realize where your understanding is weak.
So it's like those moments when you think you understand something until you have to actually explain it to someone else.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to talk out loud. You can even record yourself and listen back to identify areas where you need to clarify your explanation.
Okay, I'll find a quiet corner where my roommates won't think I've gone completely bonkers.
Fair enough. What's next on our active recall adventure?
Let's talk about the blurting method. It still sounds a bit chaotic to me, but I'm intrigued.
It's actually pretty straightforward. You read a section of text, close the book, and then write down everything you can remember.
So it's like a memory dump, getting everything out of my brain and onto the paper.
Exactly. And once you've blurted everything out, compare your notes to the source material.
So I can see what I missed, what I remembered incorrectly, and really pinpoint those areas where my understanding is fuzzy.
You got it. It's all about targeted review and maximizing your study time.
Okay, blurting check. Now, let's talk about the classic praxis test.
Practice tests are a study staple for a reason, but Jun has some specific tips to make them even more effective.
All right, I'm all ears. Let's level up my practice test game.
First, treat every practice test like the real deal. Time conditions, no distractions, the whole 9 yards.
Got it. No more scrolling through social media while I'm supposed to be focusing.
And this is crucial. Focus on explaining your answers, not just choosing the correct option.
Yeah.
Why is this the right answer? What's the logic behind it?
So it's not just about memorizing facts, but about demonstrating true understanding.
Exactly. And finally, use practice tests as a tool to identify your knowledge gaps. Where are you consistently making mistakes? What concepts are tripping you up?
So I can adjust my study plan and focus on those areas where I need the most help.
You nailed it. Practice tests are a powerful tool for self-assessment and improvement.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah.
But Jun's guide goes beyond just study skills, right? He also offers some advice specifically for students, drawing on his own experience.
Absolutely. He emphasizes building a strong network, connecting with classmates and professors early on. Those relationships can provide support, mentorship, and even open doors to future opportunities.
I know, it's so important to put yourself out there and build those connections. What else does he recommend?
He stresses the importance of developing a high-value skill, something that's in high demand, transferable, and difficult to replicate.
So it's not just about getting good grades, but about equipping myself with skills that will be valuable in the real world.
Exactly. Think programming, data analysis, sales and marketing, content creation, those kinds of skills.
I'm definitely going to explore those. Any other gems of wisdom from Jun?
He encourages students to embrace the difficulty. Seek out those challenging courses and experiences. Push yourself beyond your comfort zone.
I know it's tempting to stick to what's easy, but I've definitely learned the most from those experiences that stretched me.
Exactly. It's all about growth and resilience. And last but not least, Jun emphasizes the importance of building good habits, consistent sleep schedule, regular exercise, effective time management.
Those are the foundation for success in every area of life.
Absolutely. Now it's time for the grand finale of our deep dive. Remember that powerful question Jun leaves us with.
Now that you have the tools, what will you achieve? Wow, that's a question that really makes you think.
It's a call to action. We've been given these incredible tools, these evidence-based strategies for learning and succeeding. Now it's up to us to put them into practice and create the futures we want.
I don't know about you, but I'm feeling fired up and ready to take on the world. Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey through Jun Yuh's The Guide to Academic Success. We hope you've gained some valuable insights, practical strategies, and a renewed sense of possibility. Now, go forth and conquer those academic goals.